Have you ever stood in a room filled with voices and laughter and still felt like a ghost passing through it? Not because no one saw you, but because no one truly knew you. Like your life was swallowed up by the years that slipped through your fingers while everyone else seemed to be running ahead. You smiled, you nodded, you laughed on cue, but inside there was a cry, not one of pain, not even of anger, but of absence. A silent scream that said, "Is this all there is?" The past isn't always a memory. Sometimes it's a shadow that follows you into every room, every conversation, every dream. Some of you know exactly what I mean. You've wept in the quiet, not because of a physical wound, but because time has become your greatest enemy. You see the calendar and feel it accusing you. All those years gone, years given to people who broke you, jobs that drained you, choices you now regret. The relationships that were supposed to be forever, gone. The talents you never used, buried under fear. The opportunities missed, not because you didn't care, but because you didn't believe you were worthy. You carry a lifetime in your silence. The child you were still speaks in echoes. What happened to the dream? The teenager who once believed in anything now avoids mirrors because it hurts to look in the eyes of someone you don't recognize anymore. But let me say this, as if I'm standing in front of you right now, you are not invisible to God. He doesn't just see the surface smile, He sees the tears you wiped away before anyone noticed. He hears the questions you never dared to ask out loud. He knows the ache of your heart so deeply it makes heaven weep. And if you're breathing today, it's because your story is not finished. The author of time still holds your pen. And though the pages behind you may be tattered with regret and silence, the chapter ahead is still unwritten. What you call wasted years, God calls seeds. You see emptiness, but He sees preparation. You feel abandoned, but He has been shaping your character in the shadows. Your pain has not been pointless. Your delay has not been your denial. Every silent night, every invisible moment, every unspoken sorrow has been recorded by the God who sees. He has not forgotten you. Even now, while the world moves on as if nothing happened, He leans in. He listens to the trembling whisper of your soul that asks, "Is it too late?" And He answers, not with noise, but with promise. "I will restore the years the locusts have eaten." Not just days, not just memories, years. Whole seasons you thought were gone forever. God doesn't offer pity, He offers resurrection. He doesn't bandage wounds, He heals them from the inside out. He doesn't pretend the pain didn't happen, He transforms it. Your scars won't disappear, but they will shine. Because when God touches what's broken, it doesn't return to what it was. It becomes something more beautiful than it ever could have been unbroken. What the enemy called a waste, heaven is calling a foundation. You are standing on the edge of redemption's river. Will you step in? Will you dare to believe that you are not too far? That your best days are not behind you? That even now, especially now, God is not just watching, He is working. Don't look to the world for validation. They don't write the blueprint of your soul. You belong to the One who spoke stars into being and still took time to shape you by hand. And He hasn't let go. He hasn't changed His mind. Your mistakes did not cancel His purpose. Your silence did not scare Him away. Your invisible years were never invisible to Him. And this very moment is where the shift begins. Not because you figured it out, not because you finally became good enough, but because the King of Heaven has declared it. This child is mine, and I restore what was lost. You don't need the crowd to understand. You don't need the past to approve. You just need to hear the whisper that thunders in the Spirit. You are not forgotten. The tears you cried have been caught in bottles. The hopes you buried are being resurrected. And the time you lost will not be the end of your legacy. It will be the soil where miracles take root. God is not asking you to perform. He's asking you to believe, to lift your eyes from the ground of shame and stare into the sky of promise. You were made for more than regret. You were created for restoration. And not just survival, but revival. Let the others run ahead. Let the critics whisper. You walk with the one who turns graves into gardens. You're not behind. You're right on time, for God's time is never late. And just like that, the season shifts. You won't always feel it, but trust me, heaven already has. I will restore to you the years that the locusts have eaten. These are not the words of a man desperate to comfort you. These are not hollow phrases crafted to numb your pain. This is the word of the Lord, the one who sits enthroned above time and space, the same God who holds galaxies together with his breath, is speaking directly into your fractured timeline. His voice doesn't echo with doubt. It carries a divine authority that creation still obeys. Let this truth burn away every lie you've believed. God has not abandoned your years. What was stolen is not lost forever. What was broken is not destined to stay shattered. What looked like destruction was never beyond divine redemption. When God says he will restore the years, he doesn't mean a partial refund of what life took. He doesn't mean a small comfort to help you move on. He means total restoration. He means healing in the marrow of your memory. He means fruit growing from the tree you thought was dead. He means multiplying what was stolen until even the thief would weep in awe. This isn't about nostalgia. This is about glory. Because God doesn't go back to repeat the past. He rewrites it. Not by changing the events, but by transforming their power over you. Every wasted year you mourn, God sees it as a place to plant wonder. Every silent season you grieved, he calls it sacred soil. When locusts eat, they leave the ground barren, devoured, useless. But when God speaks, even the dust begins to bloom. You see devastation, he sees destiny. You see delay, he sees design. The word in Joel is not a metaphor. It's a mirror reflecting God's heart toward those who've been stripped bare by life. And in that reflection, you see not just recovery, but a miracle. The locusts were real, the pain was real, the years of weeping, wandering, and wondering if God still heard you, they were real. But so is his promise. The Almighty doesn't pretend it didn't happen. He acknowledges the loss, then swallows it whole with grace. He counts every moment, not to shame you, but to restore you. He's not building a new life beside the ruins. He's resurrecting the ruins themselves. You thought the lost years were ashes. God sees them as embers. And with a single breath of his Spirit, what looked extinguished ignites again, brighter, stronger, more beautiful than ever before. Some of you are holding on to memories like scars, proof of failure, regret, humiliation. But heaven sees them as landmarks, proof of what you've survived, proof of what God is about to redeem. There are years that you think disqualify you, years of addiction, rebellion, isolation, fear, betrayal, divorce, depression. But listen closely, God does not disqualify what he's already called. He doesn't consult your resume before he restores your purpose. He's not limited by your history. He's the author of your future. And every year the enemy thought he claimed, God is reclaiming it right now. Not with recycled dreams, but with renewed vision. Not by returning to what was, but by unlocking what's ahead. His restoration is not a reversal, it's a revolution. So when you hear, I will restore the years, don't imagine a slow rewind. Imagine acceleration. Imagine catching up to your calling. Imagine surpassing what should have been and walking into what only God could have written. He restores the years not by repeating them, but by redeeming them. And in his hands, even a year marked by destruction can bear fruit beyond your wildest hope. Let that sink deep into your soul. You haven't missed it. The dream isn't too far gone. The purpose isn't buried beyond reach. The time wasn't wasted. It was woven into a divine tapestry that now stretches across eternity with your name embroidered in gold. You don't need to understand how. You just need to believe who. He is the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. He is the restorer of years, the healer of wounds, the redeemer of stories. He is not late. He is not silent. He is not done. He is speaking right now in the middle of your broken calendar and declaring, I will restore. Let those words take root. Let them silence the voice that says it's too late. Let them drown out the lie that says you've gone too far. Let them crush the fear that says God forgot you, because He hasn't. He never did. And now, the very places where you felt forgotten are being flooded with His presence. The parts of your timeline that felt cursed are being touched with sacred promise. He's not returning you to where you were. He's lifting you to where you were meant to be. So brace yourself, not for a repeat, but for a resurrection. Because the years the locusts ate, they're not just being returned, they're being rewritten with glory. To the one who wakes up wondering if their life is already over, to the mother staring out the window after the kids have gone, asking if she gave enough, if she loved well enough, to the father who spent years chasing dreams that left his family behind, and to the young woman who gave away her innocence too early and now feels stained beyond cleansing, to the elder whose hair has turned silver and wonders, what was it all for? This is for you, because somewhere along the road the enemy whispered a lie. You've missed your moment. He told you your chance came and went while you were distracted. He told you the detour was your destination. He said the choices you made were final, and there's no coming back. And because his voice was relentless, you began to believe it. You didn't announce it to the world, but deep down, you agreed. You started to settle for survival instead of purpose. You built your life around managing damage instead of expecting miracles. But I came to declare the voice of another, a voice stronger than shame, a voice truer than guilt, a voice that sounds like mercy and moves like thunder. You have not missed your moment, because in the kingdom of God, moments aren't missed, they're multiplied. Let that truth shatter the glass walls you've built around your heart. Let it break open the prison you've created with your own regret. God does not discard the broken. He gathers them, He anoints them, He sends them. You think your failure disqualifies you? God sees it as the frame for His redemption. You think your broken relationships mean you can't be used? God sees the cracks and pours His light through them. The same God who chose Moses after 40 years of silence, the same God who called Peter after betrayal, the same God who restored David after disgrace, is the God standing beside you whispering, I'm not finished with you. There is no sin too deep, no failure too great, no shame too consuming that can outrun the restoring power of God. He does not look at you and see wasted potential. He looks at you and sees a testimony in the making. You are not late, you are being prepared. You are not cast aside, you are being called forth. That pain you endured in secret, it is not useless. That season of despair that no one saw, it is not forgotten. That time in the wilderness where you questioned if God even heard you, it was not wasted. You are not what you lost. You are not who you used to be. You are not the worst thing you've done. You are the one God is redeeming for such a time as this. Some of you need to stop asking, why did this happen? And start asking, what is God doing with this now? Because He is doing something. Even now, even in this moment. You're not just hearing this by chance. This is heaven's announcement into your dry places. Resurrection is coming. The world may have walked past you. They may have measured you by their clock and declared you expired. But God is not subject to man's timeline. He is the Alpha and Omega. He doesn't rush and He doesn't forget. Your detour is not your defeat. Your delay is not your disqualification. It's the backdrop for glory. It's the stage for restoration. So lift your head even if your heart is heavy. Straighten your back even if your soul is tired. Because the God who sees what no one else does is about to restore what no one else can. You thought the years were lost. He says they were planted. You thought you were alone. He says He was right there weeping when you wept, waiting for the moment to raise you up again. You thought it was over. He says it's just beginning. This is the turning point. This is where regret becomes revival, where sorrow becomes song, where the whisper of shame is drowned out by the roar of grace. So I say again, you have not missed your moment. Your moment is here, and the heavens are leaning in to watch what God will do through you. Because He doesn't choose the polished. He doesn't use the perfect. He picks the brokenhearted, the overlooked, the weary, the ones who've crawled through fire and still dare to believe that beauty might come from the ashes. And that's you. Not because of who you are, but because of who He is. God doesn't just fix broken hearts, He heals broken timelines. He doesn't simply mend your spirit, He rewrites your history with His redemptive hand. He doesn't return you to what you were, He reveals what you were always meant to become. And in doing so, He declares to the universe that time, once lost, can be made new. You may feel like your story is stuck in past chapters, pages torn by trauma, soaked in regret. But God's pen still writes. His ink is restoration, His style is redemption, and the chapter ahead, it will not match the pain behind you, it will outshine it. Because God doesn't just restore what was, He reveals what could have been and makes it real. The world teaches you to move on. Don't dwell, they say. What's gone is gone. But heaven speaks a better word. What's lost will live again. There are parts of you that you thought died, dreams you buried, callings you silenced, joys you forgot how to feel. But restoration doesn't just mean healing your soul, it means healing your time. He reaches into the days you mourned. He speaks over the weeks you wasted. He breathes over the months of addiction, the years of loneliness, the seasons of waiting. And where you see barrenness, He sees the soil of miracles. He restores years. That promise in Joel 2:25 wasn't poetic filler. It was a divine contract, a revelation. God was saying, I'm not just healing your wounds, I'm rewriting the way time treated you. You thought you were late. God says you're right on time. You thought you'd missed your harvest. He says the rain is just beginning to fall. And the best part, He doesn't rewind the clock. No, He redeems it. He does more in a moment than years of effort ever could. That's what makes Him God. He multiplies what the enemy minimized. He accelerates what life delayed. He exalts what others discarded. Because the way He restores isn't by rebuilding the past, it's by launching your future with double the force. So if you think restoration looks like going back to what was, think again. Restoration in God's hands is not repair, it's resurrection. It's not the same old dream patched up, it's a new dream born out of the ashes. He won't just take you back to where you were, He'll take you forward to where you never imagined you could go. That's why when God restores, it doesn't make sense to the world. They'll look at you and say, weren't you the one who? And you'll smile, not with pride, but with peace, because you'll know the truth. Yes, I was, but He restored me. And now you walk not with shame, but with glory. Because when heaven intervenes, shame becomes your story's most powerful paragraph. Scars become your credentials. Tears become your oil. Pain becomes your platform, and wasted time becomes an altar of praise. Let me speak this clearly. Nothing in God's hands is wasted. Nothing. Not your rebellion, not your depression, not your addiction, not your heartbreak, not the nights you spent on the floor crying out to a ceiling that felt silent. He collected every moment, and now He's building with them. You think He's just repairing? No, He's accelerating. Because when God restores time, He doesn't give you back what was taken. He gives you more than you ever thought you lost. That's how He works. When Job lost everything, God didn't return it in equal measure. He gave double. When Joseph was betrayed, forgotten, and imprisoned, God didn't just restore his dignity. He made him ruler of a nation. When Lazarus was dead, God didn't just heal his sickness. He raised him from the grave. God does not do small restorations, so don't expect a partial return. Don't settle for half-healed. Don't pray for just enough. Pray for overflow, because that's what's coming, not because of your merit, but because of His mercy. You are not too late. You are not too old. You are not too damaged. You are not too forgotten. You are the one God is calling out of the shadows into the spotlight of purpose. Not for your glory, but for His. And when He does it, when He redeems your timeline, you won't just walk differently. You'll see differently. You'll speak differently. You'll love differently. Because the person He restores is not the person who was lost. It's someone stronger, wiser, humbler, more dangerous to the kingdom of darkness than ever before. And that's why the enemy tried to steal your years. Because he was afraid of what God would do when you finally believed you were worthy of restoration. Well, now you know. Now it's time. Some of you look at your life and all you can see is a graveyard of dreams. Plans buried before they ever had the chance to breathe. Prayers that faded from your lips unanswered. People you loved that walked away. Hope you held so tightly, gone like wind through open fingers. It's as if the very soil of your life swallowed the seeds you once planted and never gave anything back. You don't even remember when you stopped expecting. You just remember the moment it felt safer to stop asking, because asking meant hoping, and hoping meant pain. You packed your dreams away like childhood toys, too fragile, too naive, too unreal for the harshness of grown-up life. But I came to speak life to those ruins, to declare breath over dry bones, to tell you that your dreams are not dead, they're dormant, and the breath of God is coming. Yes, I said coming, not as a suggestion, not as an encouragement, but as a prophetic certainty. Because you may have given up on the dream, but heaven never did. There's still a whisper in the Spirit that says, Lazarus, come forth. Even now, even in the fourth day, even when everyone else says it's too late. That's how God works. He doesn't come early just to impress you. He waits until everyone else leaves the tomb, until the stone is sealed, until all hope is wrapped in grave clothes. Then He speaks, not to shock, but to show that what looks too far gone is never beyond His reach. You might feel like Sarah laughing bitterly at the absurdity of a promise. Too old, too late, too broken. But Sarah still gave birth, not because she willed it, but because God willed it. Because when He speaks a word, not even time can cancel it. You might feel like Ezekiel standing in a valley filled with bones, dreams, hopes, parts of yourself scattered and dry. And God asks you, can these bones live? He's not testing your theology. He's inviting your faith. Because even bones remember the sound of His voice. Even silence can't withstand His breath. You thought those years were wasted? Watch what He does with them. You thought the grave was the end? Watch Him use it as a womb. The enemy wants you to look at ruins and see failure. God wants you to look again and see the foundation of glory. Nothing is truly buried when God is involved. Everything is planted. The difference is this: buried things are forgotten. Planted things are watched, watered, protected, expected, and that's your life. You thought it was buried, but God's been waiting for the right season to call it up from the ground. Not just so you can feel better, but so the world can see what resurrection looks like. He doesn't just want to encourage you, He wants to shock the system around you. He wants your story to shout. He wants your restoration to ripple into families, into legacies, into generations not yet born. But for that to happen, you have to stop camping in the graveyard of regret. Stop decorating tombs that God is about to open. Stop rehearsing what went wrong and start rejoicing for what's about to rise. The enemy had you convinced your best was behind you, that your purpose died in that divorce, that your calling was disqualified by that addiction, that your voice went silent when that door closed. But God says it's not over. Not now, not ever. You are not standing in a graveyard. You are standing in a greenhouse, and what's been dormant is about to sprout. Don't you feel it? The soil is trembling. The Spirit is moving. The roots are awakening. You are not a cautionary tale. You are a coming miracle. And this is the moment heaven begins to water what you thought was lost. You don't have to beg for it. You just have to believe. Faith doesn't need to understand the how. It just needs to remember the who. The same God who parted seas, the same God who opened wombs, the same God who spoke to storms and they went silent. That same God is looking at your broken years and whispering, "Watch me work." You're not too damaged. You're not too complicated. You're not too late. You're not too lost. You are exactly the kind of person God loves to resurrect. So prepare your heart, because the ruins are not ruins anymore. They are altars in the making, and the breath of God is on its way. We live in a world addicted to speed, faster results, quicker success, overnight fame. If you're not winning by 25, they say you're falling behind. If you're not viral, you're invisible. If your dream hasn't taken off by now, maybe you weren't meant to fly. But God does not rush. God does not panic. God does not bow to human clocks or cultural timelines. He doesn't operate on deadlines. He works on design, and His design is never late. Look at Moses. He was 40 when he left the palace, 80 when he faced Pharaoh. We would have written him off at 60. But God was just getting started, because while the world watched the outside, God was forging something eternal within. Look at Joseph, betrayed in his youth, forgotten in prison, years wasted, at least it seemed. But when the famine came, he was ready. He wasn't late. He was positioned. God's delay is never neglect. It's precision, preparation. It's the quiet construction of glory behind the curtain of time. And I say to you now, what felt like abandonment was alignment. What looked like silence was strategy. What seemed like punishment was preparation for purpose. God is not trying to frustrate you. He's fortifying you. He's stretching your soul to match the size of the assignment He's bringing. You cried out, "Why isn't it happening?" He whispered, "Because I'm building you for something that hasn't happened yet." You wanted a platform. He built a foundation. You wanted fruit. He focused on root, because storms don't destroy trees with deep roots, and promises don't break those who are anchored in Him. The enemy mocked your delay, but God is about to make a public announcement through your life. This one was mine all along. What the world calls forgotten, heaven calls reserved. God is not trying to impress the impatient. He's trying to reveal His nature to the surrendered. He doesn't panic over clocks. He holds eternity in His hands. That's why Jesus came at the fullness of time, not a second earlier, not a second late, because every miracle moves on heaven's calendar. So don't compare your life to someone else's highlight reel. Their pace is not your promise. Their timeline is not your truth. Let me speak this plainly. You haven't missed it. You haven't failed. You haven't run out of time. You are being positioned for the kind of breakthrough that takes decades to prepare. And when it comes, it won't be random. It'll be a result of every quiet yes you whispered when no one saw. That heartbreak you endured, it made your heart more compassionate. That betrayal, it taught you how to discern. That wilderness, it made you thirsty for the word. Every delay refined you. Every tear watered something. Every silent season strengthened the roots of who you are. Because when God restores, He doesn't just fix things, He unleashes what was hidden. You were not waiting on Him. He was waiting on the right moment for you. And now? The stage is set, the curtain is lifting, the years the locusts ate are about to bloom in a way no one expected. You see, if God had answered you too soon, the blessing would have crushed you. But now your character is ready. Now your spirit is steady. Now your heart can hold what's coming. And when it does, when the breakthrough breaks through, it will feel sudden to others, but not to you. You'll know it was forged in the fire. You'll recognize the fingerprints of God in every detail. You'll weep not from shock, but from sacred gratitude. Because the God who took His time is the God who wastes nothing, not even the wait. So today I dare you, trust the delay, bless the silence, thank Him for the years you thought were lost. Because they weren't lost, they were sown. And the harvest, it's on the way. Restoration doesn't begin with movement, it begins with awakening. Not the kind that stirs your body from sleep, but the kind that rouses your spirit from numbness. The kind that reignites your heart and pierces through the fog of self-pity, doubt, and resignation. The kind that whispers in the ruins, "Get up, I'm not done." You've been rehearsing regrets like a script, replaying conversations, decisions, and moments where everything shifted, but the more you look back, the more you stay stuck. God cannot pour fresh oil into a vessel obsessed with what leaked out yesterday. You were not meant to camp in the graveyard of guilt. You were not designed to dwell in the shadow of what was. You were created to rise, to resurrect, to respond to the call of heaven echoing through your story. Live again. Let go of the shame. Let go of the guilt. Let go of the identity you've built around failure. You are not your mistakes. You are not your lowest moment. You are not the years that slip through your fingers. You are a child of the Most High God, redeemed, chosen, called, still breathing for a reason. But to step into restoration, you must awaken. Awaken your belief that miracles still happen. Awaken your trust that what was lost is not gone forever. Awaken your heart to the truth that you were made for more than surviving your history. You've cried long enough over what didn't happen. Now cry out for what could. The enemy wants to keep you distracted, fixated on what broke, who left, what failed. But heaven is inviting you to fix your eyes higher, to lift your gaze from the ashes and look toward the empty tomb. Because the one who conquered death is calling your destiny out of its grave. Don't mistake stillness for defeat. Stillness is sacred when it's filled with expectation. Your miracle is not found in striving, it's found in surrender. And surrender begins with awakening. There's a reason you felt restless. There's a reason you felt the stirring, even in the quiet moments. It's not anxiety, it's anticipation. It's not pressure. It's the pulse of heaven moving in your chest. God is waking something up inside of you, a dream, a word, a purpose you thought was dead and buried. He's calling you to stop mourning what left and start preparing for what's coming. You don't need to know how, you just need to say yes. Yes to healing, yes to hope, yes to letting go of the version of you that gave up. Because restoration doesn't begin when circumstances change, it begins when you do. when you decide to believe again, when you dare to open your hands and stop clinging to the past, when you trade comfort for calling. God cannot fill clenched fists. He cannot pour into a soul that's still hoarding bitterness. You must empty yourself to be filled. Empty your pride, empty your doubts, empty your fears, and open wide your heart for the oil of His Spirit. This is not about pretending you're fine. It's about surrendering what's not fine to the one who makes all things new. It's not about earning restoration. It's about awakening to the truth that it was always yours to receive. There's a reason Jesus asked the man at the pool, "Do you want to be made whole?" It wasn't sarcasm, it was permission. Permission to stop waiting. Permission to stop blaming. Permission to rise. Today you have that same permission to wake up, to walk away from your former identity, to step out of the shadows of what if and into the light of what's next. The alarm has sounded in the Spirit. Your name is being called. Your purpose is being reignited. Your spirit is being summoned to stand. You are not a grave of wasted years. You are a garden in bloom, and heaven is watering your soul. Let your eyes open. Let your ears hear. Let your bones shake with fresh breath. Let your tears fall not in sorrow, but in surrender. Because the grave is not your home. The tomb is not your truth. The past is not your identity. Your awakening has begun, and when you awaken, everything changes. You say, "But I'm too old." Too old for dreams. Too old for purpose. Too old for promises to come true. The mirror reflects more years than you hoped, more wrinkles than you expected, and you wonder if time has simply passed you by. But God never needed your youth to fulfill His will. He needed your yes. Abraham was 100 when the promise kicked into motion. Sarah laughed at the absurdity of bearing a child in her old age, but she still conceived. Anna worshiped in the temple for decades, a widow, forgotten by many, but chosen to witness the Messiah with her own eyes. Age does not define availability in the kingdom of heaven. Faith does. And faith does not have a birth date or an expiration date. So let me say it again slowly and clearly. You are not too old. You are not behind. You are not expired. You are not disqualified. You are positioned. You see, the world is obsessed with early bloomers. They celebrate prodigies. But God often hides His greatest miracles in late seasons, because glory shines brighter against the backdrop of impossibility. Look at Caleb, 85 years old and still declaring, "Give me my mountain." He didn't ask for rest. He asked for warfare because he knew he was still anointed. Some of you have sat down because the world told you it was time to retire. But heaven never said rest, it said rise. You've got wisdom the young don't have. Scars that came with survival, faith that has been tested in storms and anchored in silence. Don't bury your calling just because society can't see it. You are not past your prime. You're standing in it. And if you're younger, don't think for a moment that age makes you unqualified. Joseph had prophetic dreams as a teenager. David was anointed king while still a shepherd boy. Mary was a young girl when she carried the Son of God. Age doesn't limit God. Unbelief does. The enemy doesn't care how old you are. He only fears that you might believe again, that you might say yes again, that you might trust the promise again. Because when a soul, young or old, chooses to believe God above their circumstances, heaven moves. The mountains tremble, and timelines bend to the will of the Almighty. Let go of the lies, the ones that said you're too damaged, too distant, too done. Those are not the words of your Father. Your Father says, "I still have need of you." Your Father says, "There's more in you than you know." Your Father says, "I can do more in your last years than you ever saw in your first." You haven't peaked. You've been planted. And just like Moses, just like Abraham, just like Anna and Caleb, your greatest impact may still be ahead. So don't fold your hands. Lift them. Don't close your lips. Prophesy again. Don't lower your expectations. Stretch them, because the promise still stands, and God wastes no season, not youth, not age, not silence, not storms. If you're breathing, He's still building. If your heart is beating, your destiny is still alive. He doesn't call the likely, He calls the willing. He doesn't choose the impressive, He chooses the surrendered. He uses those who say, "Here I am, Lord," even now, especially now, because your now is exactly where His miracle begins. Let the world measure life in decades. Let heaven measure it in destiny. You may have fewer days ahead than behind, but that just means the fire must burn brighter. You may feel slower, but God's hand moves faster. You may feel weary, but His strength is made perfect in weakness. And when you step out in faith, no matter your age, you are walking proof that the Spirit never grows old, that the fire never burns out. That calling is not just for the young, it's for the yielded. So shake off the dust, put on the garment of praise, and walk forward, whether you're 17 or 70, because your best is not behind you. It's waiting, and heaven is ready. The only thing that can truly delay restoration is not your age, not your past, not your weakness. It is unbelief. Unbelief doesn't shout, it whispers. It slips in through disappointment and disguises itself as realism. It takes root slowly, like a weed around your heart, tightening its grip every time you say, "Maybe that promise wasn't for me." It's not that you stop believing in God. It's that somewhere along the way you stop believing He would do it for you. You believe He heals, just not your wounds. You believe He restores, just not your years. You believe He moves mountains, just not the one that's been standing in front of you for a decade. But I'm here to speak with clarity and authority. God's promises are not generic. They are personal. They are etched with your name. And His word does not return void. It cannot. Because what He speaks must become. So the real fight isn't against your past. It's against your present mindset. Will you believe again? Not wish, not hope vaguely, but believe stubbornly, audaciously, like a child who hasn't yet learned to doubt. You see, unbelief isn't just passive, it's resistance. It doesn't just keep you still, it holds heaven back. Because God moves not according to need, but according to faith. When Jesus returned to His hometown, He couldn't do many miracles there, not because He wasn't able, but because of their unbelief. Think of that. The Son of God, full of power, limited not by sin, not by Satan, but by unbelief. It doesn't matter how broken your life is, He can fix that. It doesn't matter how long you've wandered, He can redeem that. But if you refuse to believe, you close the door. You silence the rain. You turn from the very river that was flowing toward your desert. The enemy knows this. That's why he doesn't have to destroy you, he just has to make you doubt. He doesn't have to take your future, he just has to convince you it's not coming. But faith, faith is dangerous. Even mustard seed faith. It cracks open timelines. It awakens promises buried beneath years of pain. It releases power into places logic forgot. Faith sees what isn't there and calls it real. Faith hears silence and still chooses to praise. Faith stares at ashes and prepares a feast. And that kind of faith, your faith, is the key to divine acceleration. You may have lost a decade, but faith can multiply destiny in a day. You may have fallen so far that even your reflection no longer looks familiar, but faith says, He still knows me. He still calls me by name. You may have watched others rise while you remain stuck, but faith says, my turn is coming, and it will not be late. But listen closely now. This is not about working up emotional energy. This is not about pretending you're strong. Faith isn't loud. It's loyal. It says yes to God even when your hands are trembling. It says amen through tears. It agrees with heaven when everything on earth screams otherwise. That's what God responds to. Not performance, not perfection. Belief, simple, pure, sincere. And if you will believe, if you will take God at His word, the years you thought were irretrievable will begin to stir again. Doors that closed will unlock. Time that seemed gone will gather. The locusts will return what they consumed, not because you earned it, but because you believed. Even now I sense it. Angels moving at the sound of belief, the heavens responding to hearts that whisper, God, I still trust you. The prison doors unlocking, not with keys, but with faith. The veil lifting from your eyes, the rain beginning to fall. Don't talk yourself out of this. Don't explain it away. Don't say, I don't deserve it. This isn't about what you deserve. It's about what Jesus already purchased. And when He shed His blood, He didn't just pay for your sins, He paid for your restoration. That means time is no longer your enemy. That means what was stolen is now under the authority of redemption. That means what you're stepping into is not delayed, it's right on schedule. But only if you believe, only if you say yes. So say it, right here, right now. Not with thunder, but with truth. Not with volume, but with conviction. Say it, I still believe, because that's all it takes to open the floodgates. That's all it takes to turn morning into morning. That's all it takes for God to do what only He can do. Believe, and watch what happens next. You need to understand something so deep, so holy, so world-shifting, that it doesn't just comfort, it awakens. Jesus didn't just die for your sins, He died for your restoration. Let that sink into the marrow of your soul. The blood He shed didn't just cleanse your record. It redeemed your timeline. Every wasted second, every broken dream, every hour lost to addiction, confusion, fear, rebellion. He didn't go to the cross to patch you up. He went to the cross to raise you up. You see, sin didn't just stain us, it stole from us, it took time, it drained our strength, it robbed us of years. So when Christ said, it is finished, He wasn't just declaring your forgiveness, He was announcing your return, your comeback, your revival. The blood of Jesus does more than cleanse. It restores, it rebuilds, it reverses every curse. And the empty tomb, it's not just proof of victory over death, it's the guarantee that resurrection is your portion too. This is why hell fears a believer who understands the fullness of the cross. Because when you realize that His death purchased your past, present, and future, there's nothing the enemy can hold over you anymore. No more shame, no more delay, no more chains disguised as reality. Jesus paid for all of it, not just the visible sins, not just the Sunday morning struggles, but the late night regrets, the years you call wasted, the choices you can't take back, the people you hurt, the time you lost. He paid for the decade you spent running. He paid for the months you sat in silence. He paid for the childhood you buried. He paid for the youth you surrendered to fear. And here's the divine paradox. What you thought disqualified you has qualified you for grace. Because grace doesn't come to the deserving, it comes to the desperate. And if you've got wounds, if you've got scars, if you've got years of brokenness behind you, good. You're the perfect candidate. You're the one He left the 99 to find. You're the one the Father is watching the road for, ready to run, robe in hand. You're the one He's preparing the ring, the sandals, the feast for. And when you turn back, not in shame, but in faith, you won't find condemnation. You'll find celebration. You'll find honor. You'll find restoration already prepared. Because heaven doesn't ask, "Where have you been?" It shouts, "Welcome home." You need to hear this. God isn't just forgiving you, He's restoring what was broken. He's rebuilding what you tore down. He's redeeming what the enemy thought he destroyed. Every lost opportunity, He's bringing back better ones. Every failed relationship, He's replacing with divine alignment. Every shattered dream, He's reconstructing into something eternal. Because restoration is not repair, it's rebirth. And the cross was not just a sacrifice, it was a transaction. He took your sin and gave you His righteousness. He took your shame and gave you His glory. He took your lost years and gave you purpose beyond measure. That's why the gospel is not just good news. It's glorious news. It doesn't just tell you who you're not anymore. It declares who you really are. You are not your failure. You are not your timeline. You are not the sum of your worst days. You are the product of His blood. You are the evidence of His grace. You are the miracle rising from the ashes. And yes, even now, the blood still speaks, the cross still covers, the tomb is still empty, and heaven is still in motion. You didn't come this far to collapse. You didn't survive the fire to be forgotten. You didn't endure the silence for nothing. There is resurrection power moving on your behalf, and it all began at Calvary. So today, lift your eyes not to your past, but to the cross. Lift your hands, not in surrender to fear, but in surrender to grace. Lift your heart, not to try harder, but to receive what's already been done, because the blood has already spoken, and it didn't say guilty, it said restored. Word count 1076. Waiting for go. You said go. ChatGPT said part 11. This is the moment restoration begins to take form, not just as a promise whispered in the distance, but as a fire burning in your bones. This is not emotional hype. This is the turning of the tide, the shifting of the wind, the divine movement already underway. Because when you say yes to restoration, heaven doesn't hesitate. Angels move, chains break, doors unlock, and the river of God begins to flood every dry and broken place you thought could never live again. You've cried over the ruins long enough. You've mourned the lost years. But today those tears water the ground of revival. Beauty for ashes, joy for mourning, a garment of praise in place of despair. This isn't just poetic language, it's your inheritance. God is not patching you up. He's clothing you in purpose. He's surrounding you with power. He's reviving your soul, not just for your sake, but for the generations who will rise from the seed of your surrender. Because when God restores, He doesn't stop at you. He restores what comes through you, your voice, your family, your legacy, your witness. And that's why the battle has been so fierce, because your restoration is dangerous to the kingdom of darkness. You're not just being healed, you're becoming a weapon. Your comeback will sound like thunder in hell. Your breakthrough will echo in the places the enemy tried to bury you. The shame you carried, it's now your testimony. The pain you endured, it's now your platform. The scars you hide, they now glow with glory. God isn't just restoring the person, He's restoring the purpose. You weren't just created to survive, you were created to release heaven on earth. And that means the breakthrough coming your way will be so visible, so undeniable, that the very ones who watched you fall will witness your rise. You'll walk into rooms that once rejected you and be welcomed with favor. You'll speak with boldness in places where your voice once trembled. You'll carry an authority that didn't come from man, but from the furnace of suffering you survived. This is not the restoration of comfort. This is the restoration of calling. This is your return to the front lines. And the beauty of it is this: you're not returning alone. Heaven is with you. Power is with you. The Spirit of the living God is resting upon you like fresh oil. He's not asking you to be perfect. He's asking you to show up, to open your heart, to stretch your hands, to believe, not in your strength, but in His. So stand, even if your legs shake, even if the past tries to whisper, you're not ready, even if the wounds aren't fully closed. Stand anyway, praise anyway, speak anyway, worship as if the chains have already fallen, because in the Spirit they have. Do not wait until you feel whole to walk like you're healed. That's faith, and that's how miracles move. Heaven doesn't respond to appearance, it responds to belief. It moves at the sound of hunger. It releases at the sight of surrender. So cry out like the woman with the issue of blood. Push through the noise. Touch the hem of His garment, not with your hands, but with your desperation. Say it with your soul. God, I don't understand it, but I surrender. Restore me, heal me, redeem my time. And heaven will answer, not tomorrow, now. He's already moving. The oil is already flowing. The waters are stirring. You think this is just a moment, but in the realm of the Spirit, this is a movement. This is the beginning of a season where everything changes. You'll look back on this and say, that was the moment my soul stood again. That was the moment the veil tore, the chains dropped, the fire returned. So don't hesitate. Don't hold back. Lift your head, raise your voice. Let your soul cry out for the fullness of God. He's not intimidated by your mess. He's not overwhelmed by your past. He is the God who restores. And He is here. Restoration begins where surrender takes root. Not the kind of surrender the world associates with defeat, but the sacred surrender that births revival. Because God cannot resurrect what you refuse to release. He cannot pour living water into vessels filled with bitterness, fear, or pride. And so He invites you not just to come, but to let go. To lay down the grudge that has gripped your heart for too long. To lay down the shame you've worn like a second skin. To release the person, the season, the dream you've been clutching long after God said it was finished. Because restoration does not start with your hands full, it starts with empty palms lifted toward heaven in trust. This is the holy exchange. You bring your ashes, He gives you beauty. You bring your mourning, He gives you joy. You bring your heaviness, and He wraps you in garments of praise. But it won't happen if you refuse to release. You say, but they hurt me. And heaven replies, forgive anyway. You say, but I was right. And God says, release the offense. Your healing is more important than being right. You say, but I don't know who I am without this pain. And the Spirit whispers, you are mine. Let go. Not because you're weak, but because He is strong. Let go. Not because it didn't matter, but because your future matters more. Let go. Because what God has for you requires space. He cannot build resurrection in the ruins you insist on guarding. He cannot pour new wine into old skins. Let Him break the jar. Let Him spill the past. Let Him make you new. You cannot control how people hurt you, but you can choose how heaven heals you. And healing is always on the other side of surrender. That's why Jesus said, whoever wants to save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for my sake will find it. It's not about death. It's about exchange. Less of you, more of Him. Less striving, more grace. Less pretending, more presence. Some of you have been holding your timeline like a clenched fist, telling God, bless this plan. And He's been waiting for you to say, take this plan and give me yours. Because His plan doesn't just fix your life, it frees it. It doesn't just restore time, it redeems eternity. And in that surrender, the Spirit begins to move. He begins to till the soil of your soul. He begins to prepare the ground for what's been prophesied. You don't have to feel ready. You just have to be willing. Willing to obey when it doesn't make sense. willing to worship when the breakthrough hasn't come, willing to forgive when you'd rather forget, willing to believe even when doubt screams louder. And when you do, heaven will respond, because God honors obedience born from intimacy. He moves where the heart is soft. He breathes where the soul is open. And He restores where the hands are empty. So today, if you hear His voice, don't harden your heart. Don't protect what God is asking you to release. Don't polish what He's calling you to bury. Let the past rest. Let the grief breathe. Let the pain testify, not control. He is doing a new thing. Can you perceive it? He is making rivers in the wasteland. He is parting waters you haven't even seen yet. But you won't see them if you're still staring at the dried up well you once called destiny. Surrender is not passive. It's the most dangerous, most powerful act of faith you can make, because it doesn't say, I give up. It says, God, I give it to you. And that's when things begin to change. That's when the soil of your heart turns from barren to blessed. That's when the timeline of your life starts pulsing with resurrection. That's when the heavens open and begin to pour out what was always yours, but was waiting for your yes. So open your hands, release the idol, drop the offense, burn the false identity, and let God make space for glory, because He's not here to polish your past. He's here to birth your future, and it begins with surrender. There is a holy roar rising in your life, and it begins not with noise, but with truth. Your restoration will not be quiet. It will speak, it will shout, it will testify, it will echo across generations that the God who redeems still moves. Because when God restores, He doesn't do it in secret. He lets the world watch. He lets your enemies witness it. He lets those who walked away see you walk into glory. Your restoration is not for applause, it's for impact. It's not just a comeback, it's a commissioning. You're not being returned to where you were. You're being released into where you've never been. This is the hour where your story becomes a sword. Your scars become a sermon. Your healing becomes a harvest. And the very places where you were broken will become platforms of breakthrough for others. People will hear your voice and find their strength. They'll see your light and remember how to hope again. Your pain is not just your own, it's a pathway for others to walk through. And that's why the restoration must speak. Because the world doesn't just need your success, it needs your testimony. It needs to know what God can do with a person who was once empty, bitter, angry, addicted, ashamed, and now stands tall, radiant, full of purpose, and unshakable in faith. Let me say it plainly. God didn't bring you through to keep you quiet. He didn't rescue you from the flames so you could blend in. He set you apart so your voice could set others free. And this is not arrogance. This is obedience. You are not the hero of the story, He is. But your life, your story, your restoration becomes a living altar that shouts, "Look what the Lord has done." So let it speak. Let it ring out from the depths of your being. Let the beauty of what God is doing in you become a beacon for the weary, the depressed, the addicted, the forgotten, the broken, because they are waiting not just for a sermon, but for a witness. And you are that witness. You are the living proof that God restores time. He restores years. He restores hope. He restores identity. And yes, He even restores purpose. But before the world can hear it, you must believe it. You must own the restoration. Walk in it with joy. Speak it with fire. Live it with faith. Stop hiding the story because it started with shame. It will end in glory. God never repairs to return you to normal. He resurrects to launch you into supernatural purpose. And that purpose won't always look like a platform. Sometimes it looks like consistency. Sometimes it looks like peace in your home. Sometimes it looks like a renewed heart, a healed marriage, a clear mind. But always, it speaks. So let the redeemed of the Lord say so. Let those who were once silent sing. Let the voice that once whispered, "I'm broken," now declare, "I'm whole." Let the life that once whispered, "I'm done," now roar, "I've just begun." You don't owe your past an explanation. You don't owe your doubters an apology. You owe the one who saved you your voice, your surrender, your yes, because he didn't just restore you for you. He restored you for them, the ones coming behind, the ones watching your life, the ones standing in the same pain you once thought would bury you. You are their proof, their evidence, their living letter from heaven that screams, "It's not over." So speak. Even if your voice shakes, testify. Even if your hands tremble, walk tall. Even if your knees still feel weak, because the same God who raised you will sustain you, and your restoration will roll like thunder across the places you once called defeat. It will break chains in people you'll never meet. It will shift atmospheres in rooms you've yet to walk into, because when God restores, the ripple never ends. And when it starts with you. Let it speak. Let it roar. Let it testify. Before God restores the years, He restores the person. He reaches into the soul, into the deepest, dustiest rooms of your heart, and begins His work not with external blessings, but with internal healing. Because restoration is not cosmetic, it's transformational. He doesn't come to decorate broken walls, He comes to tear them down and rebuild you from the foundation. He doesn't just return lost opportunities, He renews your identity. He doesn't just restore what you did, He restores who you are. That's why this process feels so personal, so intimate, so uncomfortable, because He touches the places you tried to forget, the disappointments you buried beneath performance, the fears you disguised as wisdom, the trauma you wrapped in self-protection. He goes deeper than any human can reach. Not to shame you, but to heal you. Not to expose you, but to reveal you. Because you are more than what happened to you. You are more than what you did in your lowest moment. You are not the divorce. You are not the addiction. You are not the bankruptcy. You are not the failure. You are not the abandonment. You are not what broke you. You are who He restored you to be. But for that to happen, you must allow Him to go into the hidden places, the ones even you avoid, the wounds that still whisper lies late at night, the memories that make you flinch when no one's watching. Because God is not content with surface change. He wants transformation. And transformation requires fire. It requires surrender. It requires a willingness to let Him dismantle the false identities you've worn for too long, to burn away the lies that became your truth, to strip away everything built on fear, shame, and self-preservation. Only then can the true you rise. The version of you that was always there, buried beneath layers of survival. The version that still hopes, still believes, still dreams, still says yes even after all the disappointment. That version is not a fantasy. It's the real you, the redeemed you, the one He saw when He called you. And He is restoring that you. He's peeling back every false narrative, every counterfeit label, every agreement you made with fear. And He's speaking your real name again. Beloved, child, chosen, called. You were never just a broken vessel, you were a masterpiece under construction. And the cracks, they're not flaws, they're where the light gets in. He restores by filling those places with His Spirit, His peace, His truth, His presence. So don't rush this part. Don't demand the visible blessing while resisting the invisible work. Let Him restore your character before He restores your calendar. Let him restore your vision before he restores your platform. Let him restore your heart before he restores your home. Because a new season with an old mindset is a recipe for collapse. But a renewed soul, that is a vessel worthy of every blessing heaven is preparing. This is the kind of restoration the enemy can't reverse, because it's not based on circumstances. It's based on transformation. It's what Paul meant when he said, "Be transformed by the renewing of your mind." Not improved, not modified, transformed, a new creation. Born not of performance, but of grace. So let him do the deep work, even if it hurts, even if it takes time, even if it means revisiting the pain, because that pain won't crush you. It will clarify you. It will purify you. It will qualify you. God is not interested in making you look better. He's committed to making you whole. He's not afraid of your darkness. He brings light with him. And once he's done with you, you won't just be restored. You'll be reborn, wiser, stronger, softer, brighter, dangerous to the enemy, glorious to the King. And when the restoration finally reaches your surroundings, you'll know it wasn't luck or chance or hard work. It was the overflow of what God did inside, the fruit of deep surrender, the evidence of a heart yielded, refined, and made new. And that is a restoration no thief can steal, because it wasn't built on sand. It was born in fire. All things, not just some, not just the holy, not just the victories. All things work together for good to them that love God, to them who are the called according to his purpose. Romans 8:28 isn't a hopeful suggestion. It's a holy decree, a declaration from the throne room of heaven that nothing, absolutely nothing, is wasted. Not the years you stumbled, not the relationships that fractured, not the nights filled with silent tears, not the business that failed, not the betrayal that broke your heart, not the addiction you hid, not the depression that swallowed you. God doesn't only use what's beautiful, he transforms what's broken. That's what makes him God. Anyone can paint on a clean canvas, but only God can take a shattered mosaic and make it into a masterpiece so radiant it silences every accuser. You thought the affair disqualified you? God says, "Watch me work that for your good." You thought the years in addiction nullified your anointing? He says, "I will use that pain as oil." You thought the silence meant he was gone? It meant he was shaping you. Every hard thing, every hidden thing, every humiliating thing, when placed into the hands of God, becomes holy. Not because it was good, but because he is. The enemy hoped your past would paralyze you, but God is weaving it into a redemptive tapestry so breathtaking, even you won't recognize the thread you thought was ruin. This is the mystery of grace. The worst chapters become the loudest sermons. The darkest nights become the richest soil. The failures become the foundations. And the scars become the signatures of a God who restores all things. You see, restoration isn't just about giving back what was lost. It's about elevating it, multiplying it, redeeming it so completely that people look at your life and wonder if you ever even struggled. But you'll know, you'll remember, and you'll smile, because the memory won't bring pain, it'll bring praise. You'll walk through the very streets where shame used to chase you and now carry a fragrance of freedom so strong, others will be healed just by being near you. Because God doesn't waste, he weaves. And he's weaving right now, even in the places you think he forgot, even in the delay you've mistaken for denial. What you thought was silence was strategy. What felt like punishment was preparation. What seemed like the end was the setup for your next beginning. And in time, you'll see it. You'll look back at the ashes and realize that underneath them was the seed of your greatest calling. So don't curse your past, don't reject the pain, don't dismiss the wilderness. Hand it to God, all of it. The ugly, the foolish, the parts you never told anyone about, the mistakes you swore you'd never make again but did. Place it all in His hands, because that's where all things become good. Not instantly, not easily, but certainly. Your story is not a cautionary tale. It's a revelation of redemption, a parable being written by the author of grace Himself. And He's still writing. So when the enemy whispers, "Look what you've done," you can reply, "Look what God is doing." When guilt says you don't deserve a comeback, you can answer, "Jesus already paid for it." And when the world says it's too late, you declare, "He's restoring all things, starting with me." Because you were called, you are loved, and every piece of your journey, yes, even that piece, will serve a purpose. A divine purpose. A purpose that will leave you in awe. A purpose that will leave others in worship. A purpose that declares forever and always, nothing is wasted in the hands of the restorer. To step into what's next, you must empty your hands of what was. Restoration is not passive. It doesn't just fall on you like gentle rain. It requires participation. It requires space. God is pouring out blessing, but the question is, do you have room to receive it? Many are asking for new, but still clinging to old, asking for direction while gripping fear, crying out for healing, while refusing to release the bitterness that makes the wound fester. You can't move forward while dragging dead weight. You can't carry the future with hands still full of the past. God is ready to pour, but He's looking for emptiness. He's not waiting on your perfection. He's waiting on your posture. And the posture of restoration is surrender. Hands lifted, palms open, heart yielded. Let go of the idol of how it was supposed to be. Let go of the picture you painted for your life that didn't include pain. Let go of the voice that told you you're too broken to be blessed again. Some of you have been asking, "Where is my miracle?" But miracles are poured into emptied vessels. Vessels that are not just willing, but available. God can't restore what you refuse to release. He won't force transformation on what you still call familiar. Let go of comparison. It's robbing your joy. It's poisoning your perspective. It's making you miss the beauty of your story because you're staring at someone else's chapter. You are not late. You are not less. You are not missing out. You are being prepared. But preparation requires pruning. And pruning isn't punishment, it's alignment. God cuts away not to harm, but to heal, to make room. Some of you have to let go of relationships that are rooted in your past but have no place in your purpose. Not out of hate, but out of honor for where God is taking you. Others need to release unforgiveness, not because what they did was right, but because what God wants to do in you is too important to let offense linger. You can't build a future on a foundation of resentment. You can't hold on to ashes and expect beauty to rise. Let it go, not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. There is no resurrection without a burial. There is no oil without the crushing. There is no harvest without surrender. The old ways won't carry the new glory. The old mindset won't survive the new assignment. The old identity won't fit in the new anointing. So cleanse your heart, purify your motives, empty your hands. Make room for what God is sending. You won't need what you left behind. You won't miss the weight of what held you down. You won't regret the sacrifice because what's coming is greater than what was lost. But the greater requires obedience, even when it's quiet, even when it costs, even when it means walking alone. Let the Holy Spirit do the deep work. Let Him prune, let Him strip, let Him refine. And when you've laid it all down, you'll hear the whisper, "Now I can restore." Because restoration doesn't fall into clenched fists. It rests on surrendered hearts. So open your hands, trust the pruning, bless the breaking, welcome the emptying. It's not the end. It's the beginning of overflow. This is your divine moment, the hour where heaven begins to roar through your life, not in a whisper, but in testimony. Because your restoration will not be subtle. It will speak in such volume that even those who doubted, even those who left, even those who cursed your name, will have no choice but to witness the glory of God written all over you. What once was your shame will now be your sermon. What once was your silence will now be your shout. This isn't just about your healing, it's about your legacy. Because what God restores in you, He also restores through you. Your family, your children, your children's children, your influence, your lineage. The enemy didn't just try to destroy you, he tried to destroy your timeline because he saw what was coming. He saw the ripple effect of your obedience. He saw the anointing that would pass from generation to generation. He saw the legacy of light rising from your ashes. And he panicked. That's why the war was so intense. That's why the warfare has lasted for years. Because your restoration is not just personal, it's prophetic. It marks the turning of a family line. It breaks generational curses. It shifts bloodlines. It restores honor where dishonor reigned. It lifts shame that lived for decades in silence. You are the interruption to everything the enemy thought he secured. You are the pivot point in your family tree. What began with you in brokenness will end in glory. And it will not end with you. It will overflow. It will outlast. It will outshine every scheme that tried to snuff it out. Let this sink in. You are the seed, planted in pain, watered in tears, now rising in power. God is not just restoring time, He is redeeming impact. Everything you thought you missed, He's multiplying. Every tear you cried in secret, He's using as rain for someone else's harvest. Every no you spoke when no one else was watching, He's counting as the foundation of cities you'll never even see. This is the legacy of the restored. Your life becomes a lighthouse, a beacon in the storm for others who lost their way. You won't need a microphone. Your peace will preach. You won't need a platform. Your presence will shift atmospheres. You won't need credentials. Your scars will qualify you in rooms religion could never reach. And when they ask, how did you make it? You'll say, it was God, all God. Because only God could have brought you through that fire. Only God could have taken those shattered pieces and built a temple. Only God could have looked at your ruin and seen revival. Only God could have taken what was dead and called it destiny. So let the angels rejoice. Let hell tremble. Let every demon remember the moment you rose again. Because your comeback isn't just for your comfort. It's a weapon. It's a declaration. It's a shockwave in the spirit realm that says, you should have taken me out when you had the chance. But now I'm restored. Now I'm called. Now I'm anointed. Now I'm dangerous. Because I know who I am. I know what I carry, and I know where I'm going. The tide has turned. The years are returning. And the glory is rising. You're not stepping into a normal life. You're stepping into a supernatural legacy. So walk boldly, speak freely, live loudly, testify without fear. Let your life be the loudest praise. Let your healing become someone else's hope. Let your restoration become someone else's revival. Because you didn't come through this for nothing. You came through this for everyone after you. This is no small thing. This is not a motivational moment to lift your mood. This is a divine rebirth. The God of all creation is breathing into the dry bones of your past, not gently, not symbolically, but with power, with fire, with the full weight of heaven behind Him. What you thought was dead, He is reviving. What you believe was wasted, He is redeeming. What you once buried, He is resurrecting. Understand this. Restoration is not just about regaining what you lost. It's about God revealing what was hidden all along. It's about revelation. God will show you why the pain had purpose, why the silence was sacred, why the door had to close, why the betrayal became your blessing, why the wilderness was a womb, not a grave. You'll begin to see what you once could only survive. He will open your eyes to understand that He was never punishing you, He was preserving you. He was not denying you, He was developing you. There is a holy difference between being overlooked and being hidden. He hides what He values. He shields what He plans to reveal in glory. He did it with Moses. He did it with David. He did it with you. And now the veil is lifting. The cave of confusion is cracking open. The prison of shame is being dismantled. And in its place, freedom, clarity, fire, vision, purpose. You were never forgotten. You were forged. You were never cast aside. You were called apart. And when you step out of this season, you won't step out the same. You'll carry the oil of endurance, the authority of survival, the light of resurrection. You will not re-enter life with old wounds stitched together. You will glow with the radiance of someone who knows they've been remade, because you weren't repaired. You were reborn. That's why Isaiah 43:19 declares, "Behold, I am doing a new thing." Not a familiar thing, not a recycled thing. A new thing, something that breaks patterns, something that breaks curses, something that breaks timelines. He is making a way in your wilderness. He is digging rivers through your desert. And this time it will spring forth, not crawl, not whisper, but erupt. It will be unmistakable, unexplainable, undeniable. Even your enemies will have to say, "Surely the Lord has done this." Even your critics will have to admit they didn't climb back on their own, because the evidence of heaven will be all over you. You won't even need to announce your comeback. Your life will declare it. And not just for now, not just for a season, but forever. Because what God restores doesn't just survive. It multiplies, it overflows, it reigns. This is your divine inheritance. This is what Jesus sealed with His blood. This is what the Spirit is stirring even now. And yes, you will be tested. Yes, you will walk through fire. Yes, you will be refined. Because gold cannot shine without fire. Because olive oil cannot flow without the pressing. Because anointing does not fall on the unyielded. But you are ready. Because your faith is no longer theory, it's proven. Because your hope is no longer borrowed, it's rooted. And because your soul has decided, even if I have to walk alone, I will walk in His promise. The years you thought were wasted, they have become wisdom. The nights you thought would never end, they have become oil. And the testimony rising from your life will not only point back to what was lost, it will proclaim what has been reborn. From captivity to freedom, from sorrow to celebration, from delay to divine appointment, from silence to a song. This is not the end of your story. It's the climax, the glory to glory moment, the radiant dawn breaking over your darkest night. You are not just restored, you are released. You are not just healed, you are commissioned. You are not just redeemed, you are reborn. And when the pages of your life are written, they will not be titled "The One Who Was Broken." They will be titled "The One Whom the Lord Restored." Not just for your sake, but for the world He will reach through you. So now rise, shine, walk, speak, sing, declare, testify, because God has made all things new, and no power in hell, no voice of man, no chain from your past can stop what He has started. You are a walking miracle. You are living proof. Let your life shout it. Let your future confirm it. Let your legacy never forget it. He has restored your wasted years forever.